Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Before I start, I'd like to formally apologize to Dr. Ali, who begged me to keep the speech short. However, I will not. For many of us, St. John's has been our home for 13 years. We have made so many memories. We've grown up together, going from being the smallest of the lambs to being the greatest of the rams. I vividly remember my first words at the prayer being, "Do you want to be friends?" And funnily enough, Tanatswa, also known as Trigger, is still one of my closest friends to this day. I have formed relationships with people with whom I have absolutely nothing in common, besides the fact that we went to the same school. To be totally honest, being at these schools taught me that despite your background, your religion, the amount of wealth your family possesses, or your physical abilities, you are equal. It taught me that the titles and material possessions don't matter, only who you are as a person and how you make others feel. This term has been my most meaningful by far. During my morning drive to school, I have often thought about the great times we've had, the highs and the lows. It's funny to think how we all came here as little Form 1s, well, except Yanni, who's always been an absolute unit. And now we're young men and women ready to take over the world. Our journey started with us being told to get down, and guess what we did? We sat down. The Form 1s this year crushed, so I'm not sure whether humans are getting smarter or dumber. We learned how to be grateful after being punished because Carl told Mr. Fundira that he was hungry after being asked how he was. Form 2 was filled with endless pool parties and even court parties. They threw everything at us, but we were unbreakable. Form 4 was probably the year where most of our memories were made. We were essentially in charge of the school at 16 years old. We were, I think, the rowdiest Form 4s. So much so that Tanaka's food couldn't even stay inside his lunchbox. We spent our break times by the music center laughing our lungs out, mostly due to the roast battles between Fari and Kusana. I don't know why you act like you get girls when you all know that you don't, is what Fari always said. I remember spending all of the first team football sessions bleeding with Tadiwa Rusaka Nico, also known as Lagan, debating whether I should give up or double text. I never did give up, even though I should have. We also spent our practices laughing at Mr. Mutendera, who was always tripping over footballs. Lower 6 came, the year where we felt we could truly contribute to the college. I think we can all agree that it started off so well. We were thriving, succeeding. We thought we had reached our prime. Ironically, Taku, also known as Prime, was the only person in his prime regarding his game, achieving countless milestones in very few months. If you know, then you know. We were on our way to be one of the greatest forms that this college had ever seen. However, on March 24, 2020, we were sent into what we thought would just be a 2-week lockdown. I think we can all agree that the last 2 years of our college careers have been far from what we thought they would be, far from what we expected them to be. We all expected to have compulsory supports, singing, losing our voices. We would be watching our first teams dominate the country. We never got the chance to do any of this. This goes to show that life will never be what you expect it to be. Life will always throw obstacles at you. Some may only affect you, and some affect every single human being on earth. The COVID-19 pandemic has certainly been a boulder that affected every single person. We endured not 1, not 2, but 3 periods of online school. My maths class went from failing tests in person to simply failing them online, which is much worse because we were using a bit of, how can I word this, inspiration. Pickwood, is there anything you know? Jakachira, if you get this wrong, I will shout at you. I got it right, but he still shouted at me. And my favorite of all time was a simple no, which I know it doesn't seem like much, but when it's all over your test paper, it's quite disheartening. You may think that this was an odd way of teaching maths. However, Mr. Sakala taught us in such a way that he would ensure that we showed no weakness to the examiner, and that we had 100 MT, which stands for mental tenacity. Lockdown saw us reaching levels that we never thought we would reach. These weren't highs though, they were lows, the lowest of lows. From sending voice notes of us singing war cries in group chats, to removing Celestino from these group chats because of his excessive dad jokes. We saw it all. Lockdowns were periods of time in which we could assess who we were and come out as better individuals. I believe we all went through character growth, especially Cole. We went from lying about failing to simply saying, "See!" after every test, indicating he had done well. Most importantly, the COVID-19 pandemic, paired with lockdown, saw many of us losing loved ones, and many people lost their own mental battles. This time truly emphasized how precious our time is. It taught us to cherish the time we have with loved ones, and most importantly, it forced us to build relationships with each other. This time helped us appreciate and grow the brother and sisterhood that runs through our fine school. Leading the college in a year like this has been extremely tough. The truth is, I don't deserve all the credit. The prefects have been amazing this year, often making up for others' mistakes. This year was filled with ups and downs. Luckily, a simple push tine was all that was needed to boost the morale of the prefect body during the negative periods. The prefect body showed how 14 completely different people could come together to achieve one goal and to great effect. Every single Tuesday, we were bombarded with seemingly irrelevant stories which carved Trinity, somehow related to the bigger picture of the school. Now to mention some of the prefects. Fari and Tanaka, you have always been there for me this year. Whenever I was down or simply struggling to cope, you helped me carry my burdens. You often kept me in check whenever I was straying away from the desired path. You too endured all of my repetitive yay big ones and rants. I'd like to publicly thank both of you for everything and say that I love you both endlessly. Robin, you exceeded everyone's expectation. You were utterly amazing this year, and you've been an inspiration to everyone in this school. Mandla, I know your attention is always arrested, but please pay attention now. You taught me a lot more than you think. The one thing that I remember specifically was this one occasion we were sitting in the prefect's com, and I asked to charge my phone, and you immediately said yes. I then asked what percentage your phone was on, and to my surprise, you said 1%. The fact that you're willing to do this still amazes me to this day. Even though this may have been a small exchange, you taught me how to be kind and how to be generous. Ryan, also known as Landon Norris, thank you for buying the putting green. I think it was the best investment in the com. However, Dr. Riley would beg to differ. She thinks we got no work done because of it. And she is right, but at least we had a lot of fun. Matthew, you were always in the com. Rumor has it, you had 6 frees a day. To my deputies, Gideon and Yanni, I don't know what I would have done without you guys this year. You honestly deserve so much credit. I wouldn't say that we had 1 head boy and 2 deputies this year. Rather, I would say that we had 3 head boys. This is because Gideon and Yanni have done so much. Gideon often spoke to the school. You are probably one of the best speakers and motivators I know. But most of the time it is just rubber. Yanni, the henchman, I genuinely look up to you in more ways than one. No matter what, you got the job done. You were always the first to arrive and one of the last to leave. You are honestly one of the strongest people I know. As I said earlier, I couldn't have done anything without you two this year. The fluidity in our team was phenomenal and will never be forgotten. You two are destined for greatness, but if things don't work out, would you two be interested in being my bodyguard? I would like to take this opportunity to thank all the parents. It's no secret how tough the conditions are in this country. Despite this, you have always put us, your children, before yourselves. I know that as teenagers, we probably don't show as much gratitude as we should, but I can assure you that we massively appreciate everything you have done for us. To the teachers, we owe you everything. We can't thank you enough for all the work you've put into ensuring that we succeed. Thank you for putting up with us all these years. Thank you for accepting our pathetic excuses for not doing your homework. 9 times out of 10, when you'd ask why we didn't do your homework, we would simply reply saying, ma'am, sir. There are many things that I'm going to miss about this place. Firstly and simply, just my morning drives to school. At first, I didn't really enjoy them because I know music. Nevertheless, there's just something about a morning drive to St. John's College. I'm going to miss the utter stupidity that we see every day here, especially in the car park. I'm convinced that John and Mandla are still learning how to drive, even though they've had their licenses for months now. I'm going to miss the warm atmosphere here, an atmosphere where everyone could talk and pursue their dreams, especially Taku, who attempted, an emphasis on attempted, Tokyo drift in the car park. Taku, I hope that one day you will successfully drift. We spent our afternoons laughing in the study center and also getting shouted at by Dr. Ali for making too much noise. One sessions in the car were always the highlight of my week. I am sure we're all going to miss BTB, also known as Break Time Bora. However, I will not miss the terrible refereeing of Farirai Musoni. Hashtag wave your ref out. We all know that we've been living in a time that no one else has lived in, a time that's unprecedented, a time when no one knew what to do, no one really knows what to do now, and a time when no one will know what to do in the future. Nevertheless, the same outcomes had to be achieved, reuniting the school and making sure that the college was better than ever. In times like this, my words mattered more than ever, so I had to make sure that everything I said to the school was said at the right time and in the correct manner. This was particularly difficult because I've always had trouble speaking to large groups. In fact, I would say that this is one of my biggest fears. Throughout my junior years at the school, and even in lower six, I often refused to read in class, not because I felt as if I didn't need to contribute to class discussions, but because I was simply scared to read, scared to mess up, and afraid to be laughed at. So the idea of giving speeches to 600 students plus teachers and guests kept me up at night. However, I faced these fears and gave numerous speeches. This isn't to publicly pat myself on the back, but it's to show you and emphasize that throughout our time at the college, we all had things we were scared to do, things that held us back. But I think every single one of us faced and conquered these fears. And if we haven't all overcome our biggest fears and doubts, I know we will, because the fact that we wear the green blazer shows that we will never give up. We will never stay knocked down. We will never be defeated. As Gilan Jericha once said, all for one and one for all. Together we will stand and never fall. Ladies and gentlemen, we came, we saw, and we most certainly conquered. However, it's time for us to move on. And as I stand up here, it's extremely hard to ignore the fact that this is the end of the road, the end of our time at a place that we've grown to call home. The end of this road, however, leads into a highway of opportunities, where we can each be the best that we can be, whatever we choose to do. To finish off, I'd like to shout out Ryan McKenzie and Tina Wimbo Gwawunza, along with the gentleman here, and say that though we are finished here, though we are unemployed, we are, and we will always be bad boys for life. Thank you.